Can we introduce ourselves too?
He's good. He knows it.
And we are now live.
All right, so now we're back live, and this is Health and Welfare, and welcome Representative Peterson for the record.
Thank you. For the record, Representative Art Peterson, Rutland District 2, towns of Clarendon, Wallingford, West Rutland, and piece of
Totally
Rutland
surrounded by
town.
Rutland at this point.
Well, can I just introduce myself since I'm not from Rutland?
You may.
Because we've never met. I am Martine Hewitt from
Thank you.
Burlington, Chittenden Central District.
I thought
we
Good to
knew
meet
each
you.
other.
Good to meet you.
Thank
My
you.
mistake.
That's okay.
Yeah, okay.
And I was a reporter on this bill, H77, an act relating to Vermont's adoption of the physical therapy licensure compact. My presentation of the bill was on March 16th.
Wow.
It passed out of the House on the 17th with 2 unanimous votes, second reading, third reading. The bill is a 32-page compact. The language is all compact language, therefore it's unamendable. We did put an amendment on the end of the bill to do a few things, but the bill essentially enters Vermont into I think it's a 32 state compact in the attempt to allow physical therapists to save some money in their licensing fees if they want to work out of state. You would go through the compact, you get your home state, which would be Vermont in our case. You would get a license, and then you would get a license through the compact. And this gentleman can correct me if I'm wrong with all the details, but and then you would be able to work in a specific state. This is not a telehealth thing. The
Right.
work is in the state where the client is. And so that's pretty much the bill. The bill is full of stuff around the establishment of the compact, establishment of the commission. There's a lot of stuff in it about adverse action if a therapist, and I think there was somebody just recently, I think there was somebody who had a problem and did something that was adverse. But anyway, that piece of it is the heavy part of the bill itself.
Okay.
And so that's pretty much the bill. I think it does, it gives physical therapists some flexibility, and it saves them some money in terms of licensure fees.
So did your committee add any other, do any amendments or add anything on?
Yes, we had, and let me get to that, there's a million different pieces of paper here, that we had an amendment. It added 4 instances of amendment.
Okay.
The first was just technical language in the bill, eliminating the chapter, the section symbol there, putting a chapter, which is a nothing thing. We added the state administration of the compact, which spelled out OPR's role in the compact. Okay. The third instance involved criminal background checks of the various OPR jobs that they, for instance, licensed practical nurse, private investigator, real estate, orthopedic physicians, and we added physical therapists as somebody that they would do a criminal background check on. And the fourth instance was just changing the effective date. Some of it was, I'm just looking at the effective date. I believe it's July 1, 2024.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
that's the amendment that went on the end of the bill, because the rest of the language is the compact language.
Okay. Terrific. That's
Yeah,
helpful.
I think the committee found it to be a reasonable bill. That, it might do something in helping us and neighboring states. Should go into that. I think New Hampshire is one of the states that is already in, but this is going to, yes, New Hampshire's already in, but New York, Mass, Connecticut, Rhode Island all have it in the legislature to do something.
Oh, everybody's working
So
on it.
our neighboring states are in the same boat we're in
Okay.
trying to get this passed so that, we can, it makes it
People can
more,
move about.
makes it more doable.
Thank you. And I can see how terrific this will be for folks living in Vermont or New Hampshire going back and forth. Particularly
Well,
in New York. Yeah,
Senator Williams lives in Polteny. How far is it from Polteny over to Granville?
exactly.
Less than a half a mile from where I live.
Yeah, and Rutland, we can get on Route 4, go to Whitehall. I mean, these
Exactly.
things are doable for folks certainly in the border. And who knows what, I mean, you could literally go to Florida, they're part of the compact, and for
Oh,
3
now you're
months,
talking.
lay on the beach and,
Yeah.
bring
Right.
somebody out and adjust them and get them, but, I'm just saying that there is some value in it.
Okay.
So will this, the issue of network, in language and insurance, that there would have to be a doctor in the network, if they remember this compact. Would that ease that ability to have somebody in Granville, for example, as a network doctor?
I'm not sure of
We'll
that.
ask. We can ask.
I'm not sure of that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Pleasure to see
you're very
you.
welcome.
Yeah.
Great to see you
And
folks.
thanks for your work on the Holocaust resolution that we did.
Not a
I
problem,
appreciate it.
not a
It
problem.
was good.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Yep. See you
So
folks.
now we move to Amarin. Good morning.
Good morning. For the record, Amarin Aberdaily
Oh, you
Legislative
are.
Council.
I'm gonna have Alex turn the sound up a little quiet. Let's try that.
Okay, Amarin Aberdaily Legislative Council. How's that
Perfect.
volume? Good, okay, great. So I hear that you already had one compact you looked over this morning with my colleague. They are rather lengthy, so I know we have, I think, two with me scheduled over the next hour or so. For your convenience after today, I have asked Alex to post overviews of the physical therapy licensure compact, as well as the audiologist and speech language pathologist compact. So if you have, if you need a quick overview of either of the compacts, you will have those posted on your webpage.
Okay, that's good, because we did go through the sort of the section by section with Katie on the others, and I think that's probably the better thing to do with these. So is that what we have?
Sorry, you said section by section?
Is it do you have a section by section or the overview? Okay.
I have an overview, and then I was going to sort of walk through the bill, but just highlight areas to focus
Okay,
around
perfect.
through line by line.
Okay, that's good.
Okay. Oh, Alex, could you allow me to share my screen, please?
There you go, you should be good.
Great, thank you.
Oh, shoot.
So the first compact we have is H77, which is an act relating to Vermont's adoption of the physical therapy licensure compact. The first, section 1 is where you have the bulk, well, really you have all of the compact language itself, with a couple of state administration specific aspects. So I'm sure you learned from the last compact that the state has to adopt the compact language sort of as a whole with no modifications. The exception being that we can add on to the compact pieces that are consistent with the compact that deal with just the state's administration of the compact. So the first example of this is in section 1, section 2131 is our language saying that this is Vermont's adoption of the physical therapy licensure compact. And so the form, format, and text of the compact have been conformed to our Vermont statutes conventions, but the intent is that the language of the compact itself will be interpreted the same for every state that is a party of the compact. So the first section of the compact language itself is the purpose section in 2132. So this states the purpose of the compact, which is to facilitate interstate practice of physical therapy with the goal of improving public access to physical therapy services. And then it will outline the objectives of the compact. So all the objectives are listed here on page 2. The definition section, which is 2133, I would say some of the more important ones, important definitions to keep in mind as you read through the compact language are on page 3 when we're talking about what is the compact privilege itself. The compact privilege means the authorization granted by a remote state to allow a licensee from another member state to practice as a physical therapist or work as a physical therapist assistant in the remote state under its laws and rules. So the practice of physical therapy occurs in the member state where the patient or client is located at the time of the patient-client encounter. When we talk about encumbered license, you've probably heard this term from the past compact. In this compact, it's defined as a license, means a license that a physical therapy licensing board has limited in any way. When we're talking about home state, here in subdivision 9, home state means the member state that the licensee's primary state of residence. In this case, the home state would be Vermont. So then on page 4, when we're talking about in subdivisions 13 and 14, when we say member state, that means any state that's part of the compact. But if we're talking about a party state, it means any member state where the licensee holds a current license or the compact privilege or is applying for those. So then on page 5, remote state is a member state other than the home state where a licensee is exercising or seeking to exercise the compact privilege. And when we see the word state throughout the compact, in this case, it means any state or Commonwealth or district or territory of the United States. So section 2134, I would say is an important section. This is requirements for the state's participation in the compact. So the state has to participate fully in the commission's data system. They have to have a mechanism in place for receiving and investigating complaints about licensees. They have to notify the commission of any adverse action or the availability of investigative information regarding a licensee. They have to fully implement a criminal background check requirement. And that includes receiving the results of the FBI record search on criminal background checks, and then use those results in making licensure decisions. They have to comply with the rules of commission, utilize a recognized national examination as a requirement for licensure, and have continuing competence requirements as a condition for license renewal. So then upon adoption of this, the member state shall have the authority to obtain biometric information from each physical therapy licensure applicant and then submit that information to the FBI. So a member state shall grant the compact privilege to a licensee holding a valid unencumbered license in another member state in accordance with the terms of the compact and rules. And then, as you will see later from one of our amendments relating to this, member states may charge a fee for granting a compact privilege. Now, what are we talking about when we say compact privilege? What do the licensees need? What components do the licensees need to meet in order to be able to be eligible for that compact privilege? And this is outlined in section 2135 on page 7. So first, the licensee has to hold a license in the home state. So where they reside, they have to have a physical therapy license. They can have no encumbrance on any of their state licenses, not just where they reside. To be eligible for a compact privilege in any member state in accordance with subsections D, G, and H. You'll see those in a little bit. So the physical therapist or physical therapist assistant shall not have had any adverse action against any license or compact privilege within the previous 2 years. So when you're seeing different compacts, you'll find that the terms and provisions for the compact privilege differ slightly in terms of what that in terms of the profession and what would allow the profession, the professional to be eligible for the compact privilege. So in this instance, you'll see that the licensee cannot have had any adverse action against a license or compact privilege within the previous 2 years. This is not standard. This is specific to this compact. And you'll see that there are variations between the compacts. So the licensee has to notify the commission that the licensee is seeking the compact privilege within a remote state, pay any applicable fees, including any state fee for the compact privilege, meet any jurisprudence requirements established by the remote states in which the licensee is seeking a compact privilege, and report to the commission adverse action taken by any non-member state within 30 days from the date the adverse action is taken. So in part,
So, wait, Amarin, when you talk about meet any jurisprudence requirements established by the remote state, could you explain that a little bit?
you know, I'm going to have to dig into that a little bit more. I'm not certain what they mean by that, and I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering what that means too. I mean, is it all the statutes out there or the requirements to appear before? I don't know what it means.
I will look into that and circle back.
Okay, that'd be great. Thanks.
So the subdivision 8 says report to the commission adverse action taken by any non-member state within 30 days. So as you'll see later in the compact, and as you may have heard from the previous compact, these compacts have a data system that all the member states are required to put in the adverse action information into and investigative information into. But in order for compact states to know that a state that's not part of the compact has disciplined someone's license, the only way they would know really is if they proactively asked or the licensee themselves has notified the commission. So in this instance, they're requiring that a licensee notify the commission if their license is disciplined or had any adverse action taken in another state that's outside of the compact. So the compact privilege itself is valid until the expiration date of the home license. So all of the privileges funnel in essence through your home state license. This is different from the nurse licensure compact that you may or may not know about, where you have a multi-state license and then you could have a single state license. This is just a home state license. So moving on to page 8. As sort of previously mentioned in the compact, a licensee providing physical therapy in a remote state under the compact privilege shall function within the laws and regulations of the remote state. And then following that, a licensee providing physical therapy in a remote state is subject to that state's regulatory authority. And so a remote state may, according to that state's laws and processes, remove a licensee's compact privilege in the remote state for a specific period of time. They can impose fines or they can take any other necessary actions to protect the health and safety of its citizens. The licensee is not eligible for a compact privilege in any state until the specific time for removal has passed and all fines are paid. So this section is important to know. So under this compact, a licensee is not eligible for a compact privilege in any state while they have these, while their license has been impacted by a remote state. So then moving into subsection E, when we're talking about the home state license itself. So if a home state license is encumbered, the licensee shall lose the compact privilege in any remote state until the following occur. First, the home state license is no longer encumbered and 2 years have elapsed from the date of the adverse action, which lines up with the requirements for exercising the privilege to practice that we saw earlier within the compact. You need that to have those 2 years to have passed. So once an encumbered license in the home state is restored to good standing, the licensee still has to meet all of the original requirements in order to obtain a compact privilege. And if a licensee's compact privilege in any remote state is removed, the individual shall lose the compact privilege in any remote state until the following occur. That's the specific period of time for which the compact privilege was removed has ended, all fines have been paid, and 2 years have elapsed from the date of the adverse action. So once all of those requirements have been met, then the licensee must again meet those original requirements to obtain a compact privilege in a remote state. Section 2136. This explains how a licensee who is an active duty military member may designate the licensee's home state for purposes of licensure. Section 2137 outlines the compact state's authority to take adverse action against a licensee's license and to conduct their own and also joint investigations of licensees. Detail you would like me to go into about this now, I think you've probably heard a pretty similar description from the previous compact. But basically, any member state may investigate actual or alleged violations of the statutes or rules authorizing the practice of physical therapy in any other member state in which a physical therapist or physical therapist assistant holds a license or compact. So even remote states have the authority to take adverse actions for privileges within their own state. They can issue subpoenas for both hearings and investigations. And they can recover from, if otherwise permitted by state law, they could recover from the licensee the cost of investigations and disposition of cases resulting from any adverse action. Subsection F is about joint investigations, right? So a member state may participate with another member state in joint investigations of licensees. And then member states shall share any investigative, litigation, or compliance materials in furtherance of any joint or individual investigation initiated under the compact.
Okay.
So I probably won't, unless you would like a lot of detail on the next section. This is 2138. This is establishment of the Physical Therapy Compact Commission. This language is very similar to the Counseling Compact in terms of how the compact is set up, how the commission is set up. Right, so the commission is the entity that is responsible for the overall administration of the compact.
So Aaron, it's okay not to go through the whole thing. I do have a question regarding the commission that's being set up. So the commission is the in-state. Maybe you could talk about the difference between the in-state representation and then who goes out of state.
Sure, so the commission itself is a compilation of delegates from the member states. In this case, you'll see on page 12 that each member state has and is limited to one delegate selected by that member state's licensing board. So the commission is a central commission that has representatives from all the member states that are a party to the compact. And that is the group that will establish rules over that this member states needs to comply with. That would be the entity that would amend the compact language, which would then have to be adopted by each state. But in terms of the state's administration of the compact, in terms of investigations of licensees and things like that, that would go through our customary licensing board, which in this case is the Office of Professional Regulation. So it'd be the Office of Professional Regulation would designate one delegate to represent Vermont on the commission, and OPR would be the entity that handles investigations and handles the licensure and the compact privilege application.
So I know when we get to OPR, we'll get clarification on how many people we currently have who are going out for different compacts and who represents sort of generally all of them. So, yeah. Okay. Thank you. And I think that a lot of the governance piece, we're going to ask GovOps to, as we did have in the past, to have them take a look over.
Okay. I would say overall, just so you're aware, so section 2138 establishes the compact commission. to facilitate and coordinate implementation and administration of the compact. So this section outlines membership, voting, meeting, and rulemaking requirements for the commission. So you'll see that here beginning on page 12, and it's going to go for a while. I will scroll down. And I'm happy to answer any questions at another time if you want to dig in deeper into this section. So I'm now through page 17 into page 18, into page 19. And okay, then down on page 21, we get to section 2139, which is the data system that I mentioned earlier. So the commission provides for the development, maintenance, and utilization of a coordinated database and reporting system. So this system would contain licensure, adverse action, and investigative information on all licensed individuals in the member states that are party to a compact. So a member state has to submit certain information of uniform data into the data system. So that would include identifying information, licensure data, adverse actions, non-confidential information related to alternative program participation, a denial of an application for licensure and the reasons for the denial, and then any other information that may facilitate the administration of this compact. And that would be determined by rules established by the commission. So then investigative information pertaining to a licensee will only be available to other party states. The commission has to promptly notify all member states of an adverse action taken against a licensee or an individual applying for a license. And then that information will be available to any other member state. It's important to note that member states can designate certain information that may not be shared with the public without the express permission of the contributing state. And then any information submitted to the data system that is subsequently required to be expunged by the laws of the member state, contributing information shall be removed from the data system. The next section, 2140 rulemaking, I also will do just a very high level synopsis of this section, which basically just outlines the commission's rulemaking procedures. So if you have any specific questions about that, I'm happy to pause and talk a little bit further, but basically the commission has rulemaking powers and it has to adopt rules for the administration of the compact so that states can have a little more clarification if the compact language is unclear or if states have been uncertain as to how to interpret a certain provision, the commission can promulgate rules to say, here is how you should interpret this section. So the rules and any amendments become binding on the party states as of the date specified in the rule. So rulemaking procedures are all here starting on page 22 into page 23. Through page 24, there's opportunity for public hearing, there's posting requirements, there's votes on the rules.
Is there anything in here that has these rulemaking hearings on Zoom to allow for greater participation?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Well, let's think about that.
Okay.
I mean, this is obviously a question for all the compacts we look at. So
Yeah.
may as well make it public.
Yeah. All right. I'm just
If
making
it's
a note.
Colorado, it's good, but if it was here.
Okay. So the commission also can do emergency rules. Section 2141 is oversight, dispute resolution, and enforcement. So for oversight, the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of state government in each member state has to enforce the compact and take all actions necessary and appropriate to effectuate the compact's purpose and intent. And that includes enforcement of rules. So, yeah. Okay, so then we get down to subsection B on page 27. We're looking at those circumstances where if the commission determines that a member state has defaulted in the performance of its obligations or responsibilities under the compact. So the commission has to provide written notice to the defaulting state and other member states of the nature of the default, proposed means of curing that default, and any other action taken by the commission, and then provide remedial training and specific technical assistance regarding the default. And then if the state fails to cure, the defaulting state may be terminated from the compact upon an affirmative vote of the majority of the member states, right? And so then all rights, privileges, and benefits conferred by this compact may be terminated on the effective date of that change. There are more details in this section about termination in terms
It's
of.
okay. We're good.
We're good. Okay. Okay.
Yep.
I'll just point out on page 29, there is a process that the commission has to attempt to resolve disputes between the parties. The commission has the power to enforce the provisions and rules of the compact. And then the implementation of the compact shall come into effect on the date on which the compact statute is enacted into law in the 10th member state. I believe this is maybe the one of the 3 compacts you're looking at today that is actually up and running. And it does have more than 10 member states. A state may withdraw from the compact by enacting a statute repealing the same. So repealing this act basically would withdraw the state Vermont from the compact, but the withdrawal doesn't take effect until 6 months after enactment of the repealing statute. So section 2143, construction and severability. This in essence is saying that if one part of the compact is found to be unconstitutional or against the law or some way held invalid, it doesn't automatically invalidate the entire compact, only those provisions that can be separated out. On page 32, section 2144, this is other language that we are putting in that is outside of the compact language itself, and this deals specifically with the state's administration of the compact. So subsection A says that the Office of Professional Regulation shall have the power to oversee the administration and enforcement of the compact within the state of Vermont, subject to the provisions and rules of the compact. And then subsection B, it's the director of OPR that will designate the one delegate of the compact for the state of Vermont. Section 2 was one of the amendments from House Healthcare. This, you may recall, there's a requirement for background checks, including background checks done through the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Section 2 adds physical therapists licensed in the state as one of the professions that the Office of Professional Regulation can inquire into the background histories. So this is the authorization that the state is giving to OPR in order to do those fingerprint background checks and submit the information to the FBI. Section 3 was an amendment from House Ways and Means. So currently, physical therapists and assistants have a biennial renewal fee of $150. However, with this amendment, a licensee of a remote state under the Physical Therapy Licensure Compact shall pay a biennial $50 privilege to practice fee instead of that $150 biennial fee. And then the effective dates of this section. So the fees section that we just went over, and then the compact language itself take effect on July 1st, 2024. The background check provisions that we went over take effect on July 1st, 2023.
Okay, questions? Senator Williams has a question.
I don't see any reporting requirements from OPR on this. I'm sure if there was any malpractice or problems, we'd know about it. But
Right. That was the question I was going to ask as well. I mean, Ameren, do we have any indication that there have been any violations or court cases or any professional for other compacts, because this isn't in place, but have we seen any that going on, and maybe it's an OPR question for nurses in our state, and then we also have one for physicians, so.
That does sound like an OPR question.
Well, no, the nurses isn't, would they know if anyone has lost a license, for example, in a compact state? Have there been any actions taken against any, and I include both members of our state, but residents of our state, but also of other states. Do we know about that?
Are you saying for, excuse me, you're saying specifically for the compacts that we are already a part of?
Pardon me?
Do you mean?
Why don't you take your screen down? Because we can, we probably don't need that. There you go. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so you're asking about whether OPR knows of any disciplinary action against, are you talking about for licensees of compacts we are already part of?
Yes, and so we are members of two. I know OPR oversees nurses, but then we also have the physician compact at Board of Medical Practice, and I
Yep.
don't know if DOs fit into that. So then, but is there any indication, anything that we know about?
That I do not know. I know that there are similar requirements under those compacts for this
Right.
uniform data set. So I would think the answer should be yes, that if they are occurring, that those are being reported, but I don't have that information. But OPR, the Board of Medical Practice might.
Well, it's a compact question, so maybe our compact representative can help us. I don't know who can answer that. That's a good question.
I mean, I think somebody should notify us if there were any violations.
We'd like to know.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll just put that in our hat. Think about it. We'll keep asking it. Okay. Questions for Ameren on 877. And we're gonna go look at H86 in just a minute, but just as a heads up, I think each one of us will, I don't know how many we have. Right now, we've got 3 or 4 of these. We've got another one coming over, so 4. So think about the compact that you would like to go through, and then perhaps bring some questions or comments. So as we get testimony, you'll be the head person in charge, the leader on the compact that you choose. And then that'll help us, I think, maybe move forward. And I'll try and keep my head on all of them. See how it goes. There's a lot of similarity here, but there are some differences. And I know that when we hear testimony, we're going to be asked to add language to amend, in particular on the PT. So we want to, we'll do that.
I'll take mental health.
Huh?
I'll take mental health.
Oh, shoot.
or mess support.
I really wanted that.
Sorry.
No.
You can have it if you want.
No, we're good. Anyway, so think about it. That's fine. Okay. All right. So, Ameren, we're going to move along to hear from Representative Farlise Rubio, who is here. Thank you for being here. And I think you know all of us now.
I've not met you formally, but I know
Yeah,
who you are.
yeah, you met us for me.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for inviting me to come and explain H86 to you. Yes,
For the record,
for the record, my name is Representative Bobby Farlise Rubio, Caledonia 1, Barnett, Reigate, Waterford.
okay. So why don't you give us that overview of how the bill went through your committee and then on the floor, and then maybe a quick look at what the bill does. That would be helpful.
Sure. Yeah, this is the third in a series of compacts that we went through. So, and I know you've been hearing all about them before, so you don't need me to explain a licensure compact to you. But this one is specific to speech language pathologists and audiologists. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with those folks do, but speech language pathologists help people speak clearly, and they're very important in the school setting, especially for kids who have speech impediments, as we often say. And they also diagnose and treat people with swallowing issues. So it's a similar muscles, even though it's nothing to do with speech, but that's another thing that they specialize in. And then audiologists are often thought of as the people who get people set up with hearing aids, but they also deal with balance issues. So inner ear infections and things that cause you to lose your balance, that's an audiologist specialty too. So these are two different, sets of professionals that we need, and we have a particular shortage in the state of speech language pathologists in the school setting. So there's a specific need there that we are hoping that this compact can help address. And these were very well received by our committee, and the final vote on this was 10-0-0. We were short one member that we just got appointed. So Representative Carpenter, that is just joined our committee, wasn't there yet.
And did it go well on the floor?
Yeah, and there was no interrogation or no issues on the floor. We had the amendment from Ways and Means relating to the fees, and that passed with a straw vote of 8-0-2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And so there is an amendment that the House has added on to the.
yeah, the Ways and Means Committee basically setting the fees for the professionals to pay for this.
Okay. Right, and we will see a fiscal note on each one.
Yeah,
of
I
these.
have that, I think.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Good.
Can I say something real quickly? Do you mind? Which, I'm glad you brought up the piece about the education, shortage, because you've got 3 members of the Ed Committee in here. So I think it's a good like coalescence of the two. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. So the Ways and Means was 8-0-2.
yep.
Yeah.
There was no controversy here, but we did hear, I don't know if you want to hear the witnesses that I heard from, but we did actually hear from professionals that do this, so.
Yeah, good. We have your witnesses on your webpage,
Yeah.
and so we'll try to hear from some of those folks in this. Okay,
Let me know if there's any questions I can answer for you.
How did the floor vote go?
It was a voice vote.
Voice vote.
Yeah, and it was, I can't imagine, I don't think there was any nays at all. If there was, it was a whisper.
big ruckus.
Yeah. And I got to present the 3rd in a row. I even got a laugh line when I presented it because I was like, do you know what a licensure compact is? And everybody had just heard 2 versions before, so it was pleasant.
That's good. That's good. Thank you. And I'm glad this one is happening. This is a tough one. And certainly as our demographic gets older, we're going to need more and more capacity in the state for this. Because that's one of the gerontological events that occurs.
Yeah. Yeah, I wondered if the audiologists would be affected by the fact that now hearing aids can be sold over the counter, but just because you can buy it doesn't mean that you can diagnose the problem,
Right. No,
So I
it's
think
good.
their profession is safe.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Good to see
Thanks
you.
very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you for having me. This
Well,
is the first time.
we know where you are.
Yeah, let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about this, and I look forward to seeing you around the halls in the future.
Terrific. Take
Absolutely.
care. Okay. All right. Right, we got it. So we're gonna go to Amarin, and then Senator McCarty is gonna come back to ensure that we continue to have a quorum when you both have to leave, so that's fine. And I might stop a minute before, see, a couple minutes before. So Amarin, we're gonna begin on page 86. And so this can be high level, because we've been through so many compacts. If there's anything that you think is unique to this particular bill, that would be helpful, but just so we familiarize ourselves with the sections of the bill.
Certainly. So I will share my screen again. So we're looking at H86, an act relating to Vermont's adoption of the Audiology and Speech Language Pathology Interstate Compact. The first section, so it's important to know that this compact deals with audiologists as well as speech language pathologists, but our licensure statutes for these professions are separate. So you have a section 1 here in order to, we had to put the compact language under one chapter, which I believe we put it under speech language pathologists. But you'll see later we also have to add sort of a cross-reference to in the audiologist statute to make sure that it's clear that audiologists can also participate in this compact that's under chapter 87. So the first section one is just some conforming language that we had to put in so that we can put the compact language in a way that will work both for audiologists as well as speech language pathologists. So section 2 is where we have all of our compact language. Once again, it starts out with our state-specific Vermont is adopting this compact format. Text and form should be read as being exactly the same as all the other compact language by other states. You have that same similar purpose section, right, to facilitate interstate practice. And then you'll have the objectives outlined on page 2 into page 3. Section 4502 are the definitions. Many of these are similar, but maybe slightly different from what you saw in the physical therapy compact.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm sorry to do this to you, but I think it's a question I have. Though so frequently we see that audiologists not only provide access to, hearing tests, but then they may also sell hearing aids. Now, if an audiologist is allowed to do that in our state, will this carry forward through the compact? I mean, will they continue to have the capacity to both diagnose and then treat?
This compact should not change the scope of practice for audiologists in this state.
In their state, so they still, if they can't sell it.
No, I mean, so the compact says you have to comply with the laws of the state where your patient is located. So if a member from, a licensee from a remote state is exercising a privilege to practice in Vermont, then they would, so long as they meet all the requirements in Vermont to do that scope of service, because it's allowed in Vermont, then they would be allowed to do it here. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Wouldn't carry Vermont's, like if, for example, an audiologist is not permitted to provide some subset of services like sales of something in another state, the compact privilege does not then give them that right to do something that would not be legal in the other state.
Senator Williams has a question.
So do we need a bill for podiatrists and chiropractors? Do we need a separate bill for every discipline of medical discipline? Or could we do one and include all those disciplines?
Each compact is specific to a profession.
Okay.
Thus far, I'm not aware of any compact that would cover a large cohort of professions. This particular compact happens to be specific to 2 professions. So I've heard of 1 profession and 2 profession. I haven't heard of a larger one. I know there was a bill that was introduced at some point about requiring that we enter all compacts, but you would need to adopt the compact language for each profession that has a compact in order for it to be effective legally.
The scope of practice, the licensure, all of that stuff, the professional practices are all,
Thank you.
yeah.
I think we need to.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna suggest, perfect timing. I'm gonna suggest, Amron, we're going to take a break until, for about 5 minutes. And then we'll come back as soon as we can.